By the end of the 30s, this district...
And so they gave him the opportunity to come to New York for an audition. When he went out there,
Bumpy was born into a typical poor Afro-American family. Considering that Bumpy's older sister already lived there, school, and soon stopped showing up entirely, Bumpy was considered a very dangerous man. Bumpy...
The Daily Read, your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
I want to welcome you to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Now today, as I promised, we're going to do a 3-part episode about Puffy. We did last episode, it was the Pimp. This episode is going to be about the Gangster part of him. And the next episode, we're going to talk about the Mogul. All of this ties in. I often tell my daughters that if you can watch the patterns in people, places, and things, can't nobody get over on you. Because everybody, especially the scammers and the schemers, they have a pattern. And Puffy is no different. A lot of people got upset when I said that these women were not victims, especially Cassie. A lot of people got set up about that, and I understand it. I get it. But you got to realize something. These women are scammers and schemers. All of this going around about suing Puffy, they smell blood in the water. Okay, we just gonna put it to you like this. A lot of these women have aged out of hoeing, but hoeing is all they know, being a whore. So now that they can't get wifed up, you know, some unsuspecting white guy like Cassie done got married to some white guy. He doesn't know about her past. He does now, but he didn't then. He might wife her up, but the people in the industry that know her as a whore, who will please men for Puffy, they're not gonna wife her up. And now this new woman coming out, this is one of Cassie's friends. This new woman coming out talking about a lawsuit after telling everybody how she was a porn star and, you know, a go-go dancer, and she worked for Hustler magazine. All of this is whore activities. And I told you last time that there was a rumor going around that allegedly Puffy paid some strippers to have sex with Cassie while he watched. And if you know, you know. If you was a drug dealer all your life, or you was a gangbanger all your life and never been around pimps and prostitutes except seeing them, you wouldn't know how they move. Once you know how a prostitute moves and a pimp moves, you will know that this man was breaking her in. He sat there and watched while this, you know, this bull, that's what we call them, bulls, broke her in. And he don't just break in her snatch. He breaks in her asshole too. But we're going to continue on with the gangster part, because we already tied how Puffy tried to mimic Hugh Hefner when it comes to pimping. Hugh Hefner had the magazine, Puffy had the music. Hugh Hefner had the mansion, Puffy had the mansion. Hugh Hefner threw lavish parties, Puffy threw lavish parties. Hugh Hefner paid prostitutes to sleep with some of America's most influential men. Puffy changed the formula. He started having prostitutes, men and women, sleeping with men and women. And when it all comes out, the reason why he failed and the reason why he's in jail right now is because Puffy didn't follow by the script. he didn't follow by the formula that some of America's gangsters and America's pimps put down before him. A lot of these men grew old and died without going to prison. Some of them went to prison but died on the streets. More than likely, Puffy is going to die in prison. But I don't think he's going to go alone. I think he's going to take some people with him. And it's going to be shocking when you find out the list of names of people he's going to take with him. Let's jump right into it.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
In the 30s of the 20th century, led by Charles Lucky Luciano, the mafia was dominating all of America. Harlem, a massive suburb of New York and the epicenter of the African American population of the United States, was also under the mafia's control. Nobody would have guessed that by the end of the 30s, this district would be entirely under the control of a black person. Back then, it was impossible, like something straight out of a fairy tale. While the Italians were around, they were the undisputed kings of organized crime. But changing that was simply impossible. Nonetheless, it became the reality. Bumpy Johnson, experiencing the hatred of the white population all his life, and, due to his skin color, unable to make a prominent figure in the criminal world, suddenly became the godfather of Harlem.
A lot of rappers spit bars about being drug lords and running the streets. Most of the time, it's all cap. That's what makes the story of the Black Mafia family so wild. Most people thought they was just flashy promoters, party with rappers, and flex a lot of cash. But behind the crazy whips and mansions, BMF was actually running one of the biggest drug rings in U.S. history.
He was like 10 and I was a little bit older. His older brother, we used to fight over the frosted flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? This is my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the frosted flakes because he used to always get a girl.
Yo, what the did Puff just say?
Kimmy's dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting?
There's no way this man should be getting an icon award when all he has done was destroy the people around.
Someone said that when they did the raid, I'm on them tapes, and there's multiple A-list celebrities running a track on me, including certain people that are presidential.
And today,
Now, I'm finna give you context, people. I'm finna give you context to what is going on. Okay? Since the beginning of America, we were brought here as slaves. We had our own religion, our own cultures, our own gods. But England separated themselves from slavery. And America did it also years later. But you can't separate yourself from a bunch of people who you think are savages. We were not savages. We had our own culture, but our culture was savage. Let me break that down to you. Okay? I'm giving you some context about what's going on with Puffy and America right now. You can't release a group of slaves into your country that you've kept in bondage for 400 years without there being some blowback. You got to train these people to be like you. Not only do you have to train them to be like you so they won't assassinate you, but you got to always keep a leader. This is what we call the gatekeepers. You got to always keep a Oprah. You got to always have a Puffy. You got to always have a Malcolm X. You got to always have a Martin Luther King Jr. You got to always have somebody that you can go to and say, handle that problem, because the blacks are getting out of control. We run this country. We're going to let you gatekeepers have some of the wealth, but you got to keep the ex-slaves under control. This is what's going on. And when the leader of the black communities get out of control, they either assassinate you or lock you up, and then they replace you. This is what's going on. Malcolm X got out of control. He was assassinated. Martin Luther King got out of control. He was assassinated. The list goes on and on. Understand what's going on, people. Puffy, all the dirty dealings he was doing, he was one of the icons of our community. Jay-Z, there's no telling what kind of dirty dealings he's doing, but he's an icon of the community. There were other people that tried to come up. They call them moguls now. Rap moguls. R&B moguls. You got these men and women who are gatekeepers, and they use and abuse everybody around them to keep them under control, because the whites that's over them is not going to go to the black population, because if they go to the black population, people are going to scream racism. So what they do is they get these moguls, these icons, these Megan Thee Stallions, these gatekeepers, and they put them in the forefront, give them a whole lot of money, and point to the finger at them and say, these are the people you need to mimic. These are the people that we get the keys to the city to. The whole time in the black communities, these people with influence, these people that with connections, they are trying to destroy any black person under them that try to buck the system. I'm trying to give you some context of what's going on before we continue on with this. Now let's get back to it.
We're breaking down how they reached the top and came crashing down. Demetrius and Terry Flannery, aka Big Meech and Southwest T, came up in Detroit. While they were growing up, they saw their parents constantly struggle with poverty. They would get their power shut off and relied on food stamps to feed the family. And eventually, money issues caused Meech and Terry's parents to divorce. At the time, Meech and Terry were still in high school. They knew that their mom needed help with the bills. They started selling a little weed to help get by. But
initially come in contact with Diddy?
Okay, it's a cute story. I'm from California. Prior, I had never been on the East Coast in my entire life. I had never been to Florida. I had never been to New York, nowhere on the East Coast. And a guy I was dating, Anthony Gallo, he's from Cali. We were both from Cali. He got an opportunity. He got scouted by a guy in LA who was a reputable agent, scouting agent. It was initially Wilhelmina Models. And so they gave him the opportunity to come to New York for an audition. When he went out there, he ended up getting a lot of callbacks, but he was back in LA.
I want you guys to pay attention to this woman. This woman, Adriana English, is a porn star and a whore, a go-go dancer. She smells blood in the water. And for her years of sucking dick and fucking, excuse my language, excuse my French, not excuse me, I don't care, but for her years of service to rich and powerful men, she sees an opportunity. Just like Cassie, she wants to get her piece of the pie. Trust and believe, most of these women that's about to come out are not coming out because they're not scared anymore. They're not coming out because they were victims. They know that America is about to crucify Puffy. They want to get a piece of the money. Somebody already done took Puffy's place. Somebody already is throwing parties unbeknownst to the rest of the world with a bunch of whores there. Puffy already done been replaced. You got to understand how this is going on. The gatekeeper has already been replaced. Now the whores, male whores and female whores, are coming out wanting their piece of the pie before they destroy Puffy. They want to get their piece of the bread. Now let's continue on. Now that I gave you that context, let's continue on. Pay attention. This woman looks like a hooker.
And they said, well, you know, you're getting all these callbacks, but if you're going to model for real, we need you out here. So he had never been on the East Coast either. So he was like, and at this time, my family had found out that I had done adult movies. Now, mind you, I had an ex-boyfriend, Jake Steve.
She said adult movies,
He was
porn.
my boyfriend at first. He manipulated me into the adult film industry. I only did 8 movies in a 6-month period of my life in the year 1999, but those 8 movies in 6 months follow me to this day. And I signed a residual contract, and Jake Steve been collecting all the money. He done put me on Pornhub. I'm everywhere. And they said he hiding out in South America. He been collecting my money the last 20-something years. I'm the one that gave Ray J and Kim Kardashian to connect. If you look at the production team, you can see we have the same production team. You see mine was filmed first. Me, Ray J, Brandy, we all grew up in the same church, Church of Christ. Brother Norwood, their father is my vocal coach, so that's how we already knew each other. But they got famous with theirs because Kim Kardashian had a little bigger of a name because of her dad. So when Anthony got scouted, we ended up, my family had found some member of our church, my church from 9 years old had found out I did adult movies. They brought it to the minister, who brought it to my parents. And when I came home from work, I was working as a telemetry technician in the critical care unit at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach. And when I came home from my shift, my parents had it on the big screen. Me with an it in my mouth.
No. Your parents had that on there?
The valedictorian, literally. The sheltered one from the suburbs who had never even had sex before in their knowledge. You know, the innocent one, their love child on the big screen with it. So when I shamed my family like that,
What was that like, walking into there and seeing that on the screen?
it was the worst day of my life. I still feel the memory, and it haunts me the same way Diddy haunts me to this day. I can still remember the way I felt, how my parents looked at me, you know. And then so when Anthony got the opportunity,
Now you see how she immediately tries to play like she's a victim. She fell real short of throwing her parents under the bus. Like, how could her parents put her on a big screen sucking dick? You did that. You got to understand something. You got private sex, then you got public sex. Private sex is something grown-ups do when they want to get freaky, but they don't want their business out there. Porn is what you do for money. She did porn. So if the porn is public, you shouldn't be ashamed of it. You put that out there. This woman is a prostitute, but now she's trying to get a piece of the pie because she's 40. Look at her. She's 40 years old. She looked like she's on drugs, probably meth. I don't think she's on cocaine, but she's probably on meth or heroin. She got that hair wig on her head. This woman probably still prostituting, but now she wants to get a piece of the pie. She wants to live like Cassie. She feels like all the years of sucking dick, she deserves that. You don't deserve nothing. You a whore. Get out of here. Go get you a job.
they moved to New York, I was like, man, hell yeah, because I did the movies in '99, but they didn't find out until 2004. And that was the same time Anthony got asked to move to New York, so I said, man, I'm going with you. And then when we got out there, Anthony was going to go see whatever. He ended up getting an audition with Ford Models, and then Ford signed him. That was Cassie Ventura's same agency. And so we were from Cali, and we had a apartment in the middle of Manhattan.
Now I know I'm keep pausing it, but I want y'all to pay attention to what she's saying right here, because remember, people came down on me because I called Cassie a whore, but she's explaining all of them were whore. They were models, but they worked for Hustler magazine. They did porn. They smoked drugs. They were out here whoring. These are the type of women. You got to understand something, men and women. These are the type of women that look down on construction workers. They'll go out here and have sex with ballers, and these ballers will turn around and give them a couple of $100. And these women really don't feel like they whores. But you're a porn star. Puffy pays women $50,000 a month because they're whores, not because they got some kind of music deal. I mean, he had to keep it legal, so he gave him a contract for a music deal. But make no mistake about it, these women were whores. So while the whole world is looking at them like they're the next upcoming star, Puffy and all of his friends in the hip-hop industry, they looking at you like, man, you ain't no damn star. Yeah, you got a record, but that's a front. We know what you really are. You a whore. This is crazy. Let's continue on.
So all the models in between their go-sees and their auditions would come hang out at our apartment. And we had the weed, and that's when weed was hella illegal. So we was from Cali, we had the weed. Anthony looked good. I was working at Larry Flynn's Hustler Club, so I was already the hottest stripper because Manhattan is only 11 miles, about 13 miles. I'm from Cali, the West Coast. They all the East Coast people grew up together. They don't know me and Anthony like that, so they're intrigued. I look good, he look good. It's 20 years earlier. I'm 46 right now. I'll be 47 in January. So imagine me in my 20s, you know what I'm saying? Body was extra bang.
This woman's almost 50 years old. Nobody's checking for her. Understand this, people. This woman is almost 50 years old. Nobody's checking for her. Nobody's trying to wife her up. She's trying to get a golden parachute. And for you young guys out there that's in the streets that don't know what the terminology is on golden parachutes, this is when people in whatever industry you in have a payout plan. It's called a golden parachute. This woman has spent her whole life avoiding marriage, avoiding serious relationships, choosing to be a whore for the industry, and now she's looking for that golden parachute. That way, even if she don't find a man, she's good for the rest of her life. She can do all the drugs she want to do. She can have sex with all the people she want to have sex with. She's looking for that golden parachute. And she smell blood in the water. Puffy is that golden parachute. That's the same thing I said about that lady who, when she was in her 20s, supposedly said that Trump bent her over, pulled up her skirt, and had sex with her. Trump was looking at this woman like, you a whore. She took the dress off, took it home, wrapped it up in plastic for 20-something years. Who does that but a scammer? You had Jaguar Wright get on stage or on a program talking about Common. How he walked up to her and put his dick in her mouth. Obviously, he thought you was a whore. And she never explained why you didn't call the police. Why? You never explained, did you go ahead and suck it? You never explained none of that. You just said, I was laying on the couch asleep. He walked up to me and put his penis in my mouth. Okay, what the hell happened after that? If this was a violation of you as a woman, what did you do? Did you jump up, wipe your face off, and say, man, I'm finna call the police? Hell no. This is what I mean when I say this whole let me put it to you like this, because I tell my daughters this all the time. I got 2 girls. If you see the patterns in people, places, and things, people can't get over on you. And there's a pattern in all of this. I'm finna explain the pattern to you, just like I explained the pattern to you with Hugh Hefner. There's a pattern with Puffy and gangsterism. The same way with Bumpy Johnson. And let me explain something else to you. When a woman is in her 20s, even in her late 20s, she's still good as far as sexual. Once she hits 32, 30, 35, she can still get it, but ain't nobody checking for her like that, because they done already moved on to somebody younger. I'm almost willing to guarantee you this woman right here is still prostituting, but she's not with the stars no more. They're not inviting her to the parties, the freak-offs. She can't come to the mansion because they're going to stop her at the gate. And when she looks in, she see a younger version of her wearing a white dress, smiling, drinking champagne, getting ready to have sex with 2 or 3 guys, while she's on the outside looking in now. You got to understand the pattern in all of this. These are used up whores. Cassie was used up. She had her time. Puffy replaced her with Young Miami. You see how this works? You see how this pattern? It's a pattern with pimps and prostitutes. It's a pattern. So now that she's used up, she's like, man, I done put all these penises in my mouth. I can't take this stuff back. And now y'all don't want me no more. Now y'all disrespecting me when I come into the club. Who? Cassie? Oh man, tell her go on. I got somebody else up in the VIP. Oh, you gonna treat me like that? Okay. Now she got the lawsuit. Y'all gotta understand how this stuff is moving, how this stuff is going on.
And even now, everything's real, butt real, lips real, nose real. I've never had $1 million behind me.
She's advertising. She's advertising.
Tell us a little bit more about how you guys actually got into doing these Diddy parties and him propositioning your dude.
Anthony is signed to Ford Models. Cassie is coming over to our apartment, hanging out. We're all friends. We actually started.
Oh, you was hanging out with Cassie?
Yeah, she would come over to our apartment too, because her and Anthony were both signed to Ford Models. We were convenient right there in the middle of the city. So in between your auditions, your casting, you would come smoke weed and hang out at the bomb couple from the West Coast. You know what I'm saying? We had the doorman building. We was popping, and so we all had our own private stories of, because you know, East Coast music was a soundtrack to our lives, you know, from the West Coast. Like, we was fans of everybody. Mary J. Blige, Biggie, 112, Craig Mack, Mace, you know, Black Rob, you know, Dirty Money, Diddy, you know, everybody, you know. Lil' Kim, shout out to Lil' Kim. I got to meet her with T-Pain. She was very nice. She was very nice to me. So when we got there, we all had our own, like, when me and Anthony got there, we had our own vision of what we would do if we ever met these certain people, Jay-Z, Diddy, and all that. And then Cassie did too. Her and Anthony were aspiring models. And Cassie wanted to sing and stuff. Anthony, he just more wanted to model, smoke weed, look good, get his dick sucked type shit. Cassie, she wanted to model, but she wanted to sing. She wanted to be an entertainer. And so we all had dreams to meet Diddy. So then, fast forward, Anthony ends up getting called to audition for Diddy for the Sean John campaign. So he never invites me along to his auditions or his go-sees, but this particular day he invited me because he knew I was a fan. Like, he knew I was going to be mad he went to the damn thing and you didn't take me, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to meet people and stuff. I was already a dancer. I was already moving and shaking. I already had a gang of athletes and whatever. But the music industry, because I rap and sing, that's where I wanted to get into. So, long story short, we sitting in the waiting room, and one of his homeboys that frequents our apartment comes out of the thing, and he's looking mellow mad, like, shh. And so, low-key, me and Anthony laughing. We was like, he must not have booked it. Like, he's salty. Like, we laughing to each other, like, you know. And then they called him. And then when they called him, I'm like, yeah, you got this, motherfucker. Like, you know, I'm dapping on. He's like, and then that's when two-way pages was out. So when they called, I flipped my two-way up. So I'm on my two-way lining up some money for later on. All of a sudden, I just hear, man, fuck that.
Lining up some money for later on.
And it was, I'm like,
She had somebody give us some money for some pussy.
A very good-looking guy. His mother is, African-American black lady, and his father is an Italian man. And actually, the wine, Gallo wine, that's his family. And allegedly, his dad got basically shunned from his family for choosing up on a black woman. And he went on to have a few kids, and all of them are boys, and they're all very good-looking guys. But his dad chose to be poor to follow his heart and be with a black woman. And so, allegedly, his dad still to this day rides a bike in Northern California. He's from Northern California. He had moved down to L.A., and so even though he was a good-looking guy mixed with black and Italian, he wasn't no punk. Like, it wasn't no gay in him. It wasn't no, bitch in him. Like, he was like a thug, but he was a pretty boy. So, like, I guess they underestimated him, thinking that because he was so good looking that he'd go that way. So he was more than offended. He was on some gangster shit. Like, he got me fucked up. So when we were in the elevator, I was like, well, what happened? He was like, man, he gave me a look like, man, shut the f***. And I was like, all right, because there was people in the elevator. So I was like, all right. So when we got, out the elevator, I'm like, what's up? I'm like, why are you tripping? He was like, that nigga asked me to suck his dick. I said, who asked you to suck his dick? He said, Puffy. Who was calling Puffy back then? Puff. And I said, no, he didn't. And it broke my heart, broke an arm, and I was like, nah. And he was like, he asked me to suck his dick. I was like, oh. I was like, well, then, I see why, you know what I mean? For sure, like, it's a wrap. It's like, I don't need that job. That's fucking bad. So I'm
hated by others, but everyone knows that he's a boss that you never want to piss off. As talented of a genius as he is, he's also known to be equally as angry, manipulative, and flat-out evil. So in this video, we gather information and opinions to create an unbiased and hopefully accurate depiction of the man himself. This is Surviving Diddy, so let's dive in. The story begins in 1970s Harlem, a very rough place at the time. Poverty and violence ruled the community, and people did what they had to do to survive. One of these people was Melvin Combs, a man who climbed the ranks as a dealer in Harlem. But Melvin lived a double life, one where he risked his life and freedom in the streets, and another where he provided for his wife and 2 children. But by all accounts, Melvin and his wife did a great job sheltering their kids from the chaotic streets. Sadly though, in the mid-1970s, Melvin would lose his life to a deal gone wrong. On paper, Melvin was just another statistic, one of the thousands in New York City. But to his son named Sean, he was his everything. Sean was in elementary school when his father passed away, and his mother always told him that it was a car crash. Her idea was to shelter him from all things bad, and she even moved him into the suburbs. So in the 6th grade, the family moved to the city of Mount Vernon, and Sean attended a private Montessori school. In many cases, going from inner city to a private school can be a struggle, but not for a young Sean Combs. He was highly intelligent and charismatic, an instant leader amongst boys. So Sean spent the rest of his adolescence in Mount Vernon, thriving amongst his wealthier classmates. After high school, his good grades led him to the prestigious Howard University. There, he became an absolute star in all facets. He joined a fraternity and was known for throwing the best parties in D.C. On top of this, he started a cab service that would safely take home drunk students after parties. He was already a natural businessman, and everyone knew that he was destined for success. All he had to do was wait patiently for his first major opportunity. For him, this would come rather early. In fact, it was in 1989 after his freshman year. While home in Mount Vernon, he linked up with a good childhood friend named Dwight Myers, also also known as Heavy D. Growing up, Heavy D was like a big brother to Sean, a mentor in many ways. Well, Heavy was a talented rapper, and by 1989 he signed a major deal with Uptown Records. So over the summer, he introduced his friend Sean to the owner of Uptown Records, a respected mogul by the name of Andre Harrell. Right off the bat, Andre took...
Now this is important, people, because this is what leads into the gangsterism part of Puffy. And the reason why I say this is because you're going to see how everything is similar to Puffy and Bumpy Johnson. Remember, pay attention to this, because there has always been gatekeepers, especially in Harlem. Bumpy Johnson was a gatekeeper over Harlem for the white people, for the white mafia. He kept the blacks in check. Let's continue on.
A special liking to a young Sean Combs, like an oddly special liking. I guess he saw major potential in him because he decided to give him a major opportunity right away. So in the summer of 1989, Sean was hired as an intern at Uptown Records. Over the summer, Sean spent countless hours in the studio and in meetings with major artists from around the country. It was truly a dream come true for a freshman in college, something that's pretty much unheard of. Well, the fall comes around and Sean has to return to campus in D.C. Andre didn't want him to go and tried to convince him to drop out and stay with the label. Sean's mother was not having it. So together they came to a compromise. Twice a week, Sean would take the train from DC to New York to be at the Uptown office. This was 4 hours each way, meaning that Sean spent a total of 16 hours a week just to remain an intern at Uptown. This really didn't make any sense. What could he bring to the table that required him to do all of this hassle? Well, you might find out in just a second, so hold on. This crazy lifestyle continued for a few months until Andre Harrell put his foot down. He offered him a full-time job at the label if he would drop out of Howard and return back to New York. Sean accepted it and it worked out extremely well. This is because at just 20 years old, Sean was promoted to the vice president of the label. Whoa, now we're all thinking the same thing, aren't we? Why in the world would Andre Harrell promote a 20-year-old to the vice president of his label? The music industry is one of the hardest to crack, and for most it takes decades to get this position. So how did Sean Combs really get this job so young? And that leads us to a little bit of deep diving history. Back in the day, Andre Harrell had a very similar story to Sean Combs. He was another college student in the Bronx hoping to one day work in the music industry. And while in college, he was discovered by a legendary music mogul by the name of Clive Davis. For those who...
Now you get it. Now you see the connection. Just like you saw the connection with, America's biggest pimp, Hugh Hefner. Now you get to see the connection with the gangsterism side. Because like I said, there's always some type of Italian or Jew, some type of white person over everything. The Harrell guy was trained by Clive Davis. He probably had to suck the penis. Then Harrell went and found Puffy. Puffy had to suck the penis. This is to keep everybody in line. I got something on you. Let's continue on, because this is the connection with Bumpy Johnson.
Who don't know, Clive is famous for founding Arista Records and for being one of the first moguls to come out of the closet. Well, Clive took a special liking to Andre and took him under his wing in the music industry. Long story short, in 1985, Andre was given funding to start his own music label, one called Uptown Records. So just like Puff, Andre went out and discovered underground rappers, one of which being Heavy D. So again, this begs the same question: how did Andre get this position at such a young age? Well, according to Sean's former assistant, it's all a power dynamic with Clive Davis at the top. The the incident.
Harlem, and how, for many years, he jockeyed to maintain his power. And at the very end of the video, we will tell you who the renowned drug lord Frank Lucas actually was to Bumpy Johnson. Ellsworth Raymond Johnson's problems started the day he was born. We by no means condone racism, but the fact of the matter is that he had the misfortune of being born black. Back when Bumpy was born, it was really tough to be black in America. In most cases, you would be doomed to a miserable existence, exposed to constant hatred, contempt, and ridicule from the white population. The government wasn't helping, passing laws that to varying degrees limited the rights of the black population. Bumpy's family lived in constant fear of racial violence.
I'm going to fast forward some of this.
The system, blink of hesitation, he decided to clip the wings of his rival. He was shocked to find out that his competitor was a 16-year-old boy. Once they were face to face, Bub demanded that Bumpy hand over all his clients and get lost while he could still walk. But Johnson's answer astonished him. Even though he was risking his life, his response was a firm no. This is where Johnson's story could have ended, but William Bub Hewlett turned out to be no mere brute, but a man of farsightedness and ambition. Bub saw the boy's potential and was impressed by his bravery, inviting him into the business.
Now, do y'all see the connection? Bub basically brought Bumpy Johnson in, but Bub had somebody over him who was a white mafioso. Let's continue on. I'm showing y'all the connections.
Of providing physical protection for high-ranking bankers of Harlem. It didn't take long for Johnson to become one of the most sought-after bodyguards in the area. With Bub Hewlett's support, Johnson's criminal career took off and jumped to a whole different level. Bumpy was considered a very dangerous man. He was feared, not only because he never left his home without a gun or a knife, but also because if the situation presented itself, he wouldn't hesitate to skillfully use them. Armed robbery, burglary, extortion, pimping, Johnson was involved in all of it now. But this could not have gone unnoticed for long. Bumpy soon got on the cops' radar, and they got to work with all due diligence. Perhaps, if he was white, he would have been able to avoid any charges, but nobody even thought of looking the other way when it came to an insolent black thug. As a result, Bumpy was celebrating his 17th birthday while doing time in Elmira Reformatory. But this was just the beginning. The next decade will see Johnson in and out of jail for a variety of crimes, including illegal possession of a weapon, grand larceny, and more. Bumpy became a famous gangster, but not so big that when he spent a decade in prison, people on the streets still remembered him. He wasn't, nor could he ever be, a part of the Italian mafia, and for the same reason he couldn't have been a kingpin of Harlem. All he could settle for was being a proficient gangster, albeit not a very influential one. Finally, concluding his most recent unforgettable visit to prison in 1932, Bumpy came out and had the firmest intention to never go back in. Unfortunately, he had no money and no way of making it, other than once again getting involved with criminals. Though card rooms offering games like poker and blackjack were flourishing in cities across America, it was the numbers game that took over Harlem. Also known as the numbers racket or Italian lottery, it was an illegal lottery popularized in the 1920s and 30s. With bets starting at just a penny, the game was predominantly played in poor and working class neighborhoods. While many independent bookmakers capitalized on the numbers racket, Bronx mob boss Dutch Schultz bulldozed almost every bookie into working for him. This was much better than the alternative, losing their business altogether. However, Stephanie St. Clair, one of the only female racket runners in Harlem, refused to back down. She needed strong and reliable people for her crew, and soon her gaze fell on Bumpy Johnson, a man who could become her right hand. The union was mutually beneficial. Stephanie's crew gained a reliable, quick-witted member who could be tasked with any job, and Bumpy could once again step into the spotlight under the support of a powerful and respected ally. Johnson became St. Clair's bodyguard and her main muscle. At the time...
Do y'all see the connection? Bumpy is Puffy. Bud is Harrell. Lucky Luciano and the Italian mob is Clive Davis. Do y'all see the connection? It's a pattern. This stuff repeats itself. It's a pattern. That woman, she's like the Beyonce. Powerful. She's a woman. So people are going to give her certain leeway. But she ran gangs. Just like all the women that Puffy had up under him, he never picked one. He used all of them. Well, he picked his wife, but quote unquote, they say she was killed. It's a pattern. It's a pattern with this gangsterism. Let's continue on.
St. Clair was the reigning queen of several criminal organizations across Harlem. She was the leader of a local gang, the 40 Thieves, and was also a key investor in the numbers racket in the neighborhood. St. Clair was certain that Bumpy Johnson would be her perfect partner in crime. She was despite their 20-year age difference, though some biographers peg her as being only 10 years his senior. Some sources claim that Bumpy started working for her back in 1924. But even if that was the case, Johnson wouldn't be able to accomplish many of her tasks, considering that back then he spent most of his time going in and out of prison.
I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Y'all got to understand how this game is being played. These people have put in place gatekeepers over the black community.
Doing special favors for Andre.
And right now, what's happening is there's a shakeup in the gatekeepers. This is critical, people, that y'all understand this. There is a shakeup going on at the top with the gatekeepers. I think they're trying to replace Puffy with Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're trying to make Jay-Z and Beyonce Puffy and Queenie. Okay? And the people that's over Puffy and Queenie were the Italian mob. Look at Luciano and them. Murder Inc.
But then again, you know, you added in for Andre because Andre used to make you sick. And Kim Porter had footage of it. And Kim Porter had footage of it.
The rumors have never proven to be true, and they will be important later on. Well, make of all that what you want, but the fact is that Sean's career took off from here. After becoming the vice president of Uptown, Sean truly put his head down and grinded for success. He scouted the local underground scene in order to find his first diamond in the rough. This is how he discovered his first artist in 1991, an MC out of Long Island by the name of Craig Mack. Craig was an instant success, but Sean wasn't satisfied with just him. While scrolling through the Source magazine, Sean was intrigued by a rapper in the unsigned hype section. This would be a young rapper out of Brooklyn by the name of Notorious Big. So in March of 1992, Sean got in contact with Big and brought him to the studio.
I was like, for sure, you know what I mean? We got in the cab, we went back to our apartment. His homeboy ended up coming through, we smoked blunts, we laughed at it. We was like, that, you know what I mean? But then, because I was a dancer, I'm also in the regular go-go club scene, and I ran into Tamiko Thomas, who ended up being, I call her handler, one of Diddy's handlers, wranglers, and she approached me with opportunity to help me and Anthony out.
Let me explain to you what the handlers are. Okay, this goes back to the streets, to the pimping. Handlers, if it's a man, is a pimp assistant. He's the kind of guy who's not really a pimp, but he hangs with a lot of pimps, and he goes out, recruits women for the pimp. If it's a female handler, she's his bottom bitch. Puffy had several handlers. These are women who are prostitutes, who go out and get women like her who done porn and say, hey, you want to come to Puffy party? You got to do some certain things. You know, you're going to get paid. It's going to be under the table. We'll shoot you a couple of $100,000 or $10,000, $20,000. But long as you service anybody that wants a piece of ass, you give them a piece of ass. This is what's going on, people. And we'll even make it legal by making you sign some kind of music deal when you ain't even cut like that.
If I would dance at Diddy's white parties, Anthony can go ahead and book the campaign. I agreed to dance at the white parties. Anthony booked the Sean John campaign. He was everywhere. He was on billboards, buses, bus stops, cabs, in the magazine, all at the same damn time. He was everywhere. But right now, if you go and try to Google any one picture of that Sean John campaign, Diddy done scrubbed it all. I can't even hardly find a picture.
Now, did Diddy remember him whenever he eventually got that gig? Was he like, oh yeah, I remember you?
Yeah, because when he booked it, after they had like a lounge party where it was like a celebration, like, hey, the new campaign, let's all, and it was a very small lounge, like only the models was there, the creative director, the photographer, Diddy, a couple other people, and that's it. And so because he tried him and he didn't fall for it, so he felt stupid. He didn't know he was that thug,
So what was your reaction to that? I know both of you guys were upset. But were you thinking like, damn, ain't no Diddy was like this? Were you guys shocked?
I was, because I had been an ex, porn star, and I was currently an exotic dancer. For me, it was regular scheduled programming. Like, this is what rich people with money do. Like, he tried it, he wanted to see, you know what I mean? To me, it was more funny, but Anthony took more offense. Like, no, like, he got me fucked up. So I had let it go. I was over it. When they asked me to work the parties, I was like, hell yeah, I would have did that shit down there for free. You know what I mean? Just for the networking. I was a groupie at that point. And I didn't realize how pretty I was. I didn't realize they looked at me like that. And I extra didn't know that Diddy had gotten word of my former career in the adult entertainment industry that I was manipulated into by an ex-boyfriend that I only did for 6 months out of my life, that I wasn't trying, I didn't have aspirations to be a P star, none of that. I got manipulated into it.
Stop it, lady. Stop it. Stop it.
So somebody could basically get my residuals and be basically caking off of me the last 20 plus years. I was very sheltered, naive. My parents were from LA, and so they raised me in the suburbs because they didn't want me to experience anything they saw growing up in the hood. And so when I went to Long Beach State and they put me in the co-ed dorms, to the left were the athletes and to the right were the girls who were stripping to get through school, because they were all from LA, Compton, and Long Beach. I'm from Chino, California, a little nerdy girl with valedictorian, so when they were stripping to get through college, I kicked it with them, and that's how I ended up with Jake Steed. And he saw the innocence and naiveness in me. He got me to do their movies, and then when Diddy found out about it, they used that against me, and he viewed me as somebody that was sexually exploited, worthy. And and he played on my heart. It's called coercion of the heart. When I told him that I rap and I sang, and he said I was dope, and he said he was gonna bring me and I had a girl group out, like I'm the Beyonce of my group. They even told you that I was the dopest one. And it's called coercion of the heart.
Some lawyer trying to get some money told her about coercion of the heart. She done found a new word to make herself look like a victim. This woman ain't no damn victim. I guarantee you right now, after this interview, if a millionaire saw her on this interview and contacted her and wanted to give her some money for some sex, she would jump on it. Ain't nobody checking for this lady no more. She's a washed up whore. So now she wants that golden parachute. She wants to get this bread before they lock Puffy up and take all this bread.
And he played on the fact that he knew I liked to rap, sing, and perform. And that's why he would bring me back year after year saying, you're getting closer, like initiation, you're getting closer. But it never happened, but he kept making me, sexually perform while he was wheeling and dealing and, getting jewelry from Jacob the jeweler, cutting a deal with this person, recording me and him over there so he can extort that person out of woo. We all didn't know, but he had a plan the whole time. And that's why he made people sign NDAs that said, you can't talk about what we went through until 20 years after I died. And I never signed that. Aubrey O'Day and Danity Kane and them, they got hit with that. I was already out the game. I was done from 2004 to 2009. By the time he was running around with them, I was already, on the way out.
So if I understand correctly, so basically he had you setting up people, man. Some of his high-profile people, he had you go over there so he can get video of certain.
No, he wouldn't say go over there so I can get video. He would hire me to work as a go-go dancer. They had 3 stages, positioned throughout his mansion. It was where he lived. It was his residence. It wasn't a club. It wasn't a lounge. And so we just makeshift stages, 3 stages set up in his house, like for us to be checkpoints. Like my stage was over by the bar. Tamiko's stage was over by the food. Old girl's checkpoint was over there by the rooms if you wanted to go do something. So it was like, I think he kind of told the guests, hey, if you want to drink, look for, just look for a stage and you're going to find something you need, you know what I mean? So we were elevated above the crowd. And so, we were instructed to only drink from certain liquor bottles. It's the girls' champagne, it's the guys' champagne. Girls don't drink the guys' champagne, girls don't drink the boys' champagne. And all the champagne was laced with ketamine, like horse tranquilizer, ecstasy. That's not allegedly. We were all doped up. And to this day, I believe we all, I know I do, have a chemical imbalance. Like whenever I drink anything, it could be 1 glass of wine, all of a sudden I'm a stripper, I'm a P-star, like my mind, I just black out and I'm that. I'm She Diddy. Orlando Brown running around like I'm Puff. He not really act like it to everybody else. Everybody looking like he want attention, like he wilding, like. But it's something about when he drugged you that he stood over you, like infusing himself into you while you laid there unconscious, and it's like it became a part of you. Because after a certain amount, they started calling me She Diddy. They're like, man, she act like Diddy. She just like Diddy, and hence I've been She Diddy for the last 20 years. So I feel Orlando when he be like, man, I'm Puff. Nice to meet you, I'm Puff. Because when we get faded, like, it's like he come out in us, like, and that's forever. That's why it's haunting us to this day. When my neck, what? Like, I don't even remember nothing. That bitch, like, what? It was like that.
That's that blackout drinking.
Right, but he had imagine everybody blacked out, though. It don't matter if you a celebrity or, that's why J-Lo left the country. He had her sticking bottles and stuff up in my homegirl. She was only 11 years old. She the girl that they put on.
Now I'm going to stop that right there. Because I wanted to show you the ties between Puffy and Bumpy Johnson and the gangster side of Puffy. Y'all got to understand that, like I said, these women are washed up whores. And now that the fame is gone and they didn't get chosen, they can't go back to their hometowns. It's too embarrassing for them. And I'm going to do a show about why. You see, the 5s, 6s, and 7s, they come back to the hood after they get used up. The 8, 9s, and 10s, they don't come back to the hood. It's too embarrassing for them to know that you this beautiful and all of these men have used you up. You can't come back to the hood because now people are looking at you like, shit, you a hoe. I don't care if you was a hoe for the damn rich people. You a hoe. I want the same treatment you gave them. If you sucking their penis, suck mine too. I'll give you a couple of dollars. They can't bring themselves to go back. So they seek out that golden parachute. They want to get the money. This woman ain't no damn victim. Look at her. She a 47-year-old whore. Advertising herself right now. Trying to play like she's a victim. Stop it, lady. And I say things that people want to say, but they can't say it. Because they so in tune with society to where they think it, but they can't say it. That's why I'm here. This is the Daily Read, and I'm out.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.